In this video, I'm going to be going over how to change a drive belt in an octane elliptical. This can also apply to any other ellipticals that use a drive belt system like this. A reason you're going to want to replace this drive belt, you will notice that sometimes it can completely break, or you'll notice it will become dry rotted, or some of the edges will start to fray and start to fall apart. Also, if you notice too much belt debris laying in the bottom of the machine, it's probably a good time to go ahead and replace the belt. So what you're going to want to do first is remove all the plastic covers from the machine, give you access to remove the brake assembly, and also take off the handles because we are going to be removing the crank arm and all the pivot points here. So what you can do, you can go ahead and loosen up this first main crank arm after you remove the handles here with a 17mm wrench. And if you want to go ahead and make it easier on yourself to take this pivot point off, we can also remove the pedal arm here. Once that's all disconnected, we'll have an easier way of getting this all off, so we can go ahead and remove the crank arm from the center shaft like this and set that aside to make sure it's out of the way while working on the belt here. Another thing we can go do is also take the tension off of the drive belt here with a 14mm wrench, and we're going to loosen the nuts to the tension bolt that holds the pulley down and gives tension to this belt. I went ahead and did that already, so now that this is nice and loose, we can go ahead and remove the belt from the flywheel. We want to be able to keep this to the side really quick, and also get your 17mm wrench and begin to loosen up the brake assembly like this. Make sure that's nice and loose and gives you enough space so you're easily able to pull the brake assembly out of the mounting point there. And on the other side, you may have to hold the brake assembly in place while you spin, because as you can see, if you spin this, the brake assembly is going to want to spin with it. So holding this down and turning will ensure that that nut comes off without the whole brake assembly actually spinning. So once we get this all the way to the edge and nice and loose, and you want to be able to get this so you can adjust the nuts with your fingers just like that, we are then going to want to remove the brake cable from the servo motor so we can pull this brake assembly out. So once we go ahead and undo the cable from the spool, we can pull that and separate it. And with both hands, grab the brake assembly and lift it up and on out. And along with that will come the belt. So now that we have a new belt, we can go ahead and wrap that around the pulley here on the brake assembly and lift that up into place, making sure that there's enough space between the washers here and the brake assembly so we can drop that into the bracket. Now back on this side, we can take the belt and reroute that back around the flywheel and around this pulley here. Take the top of the belt, route that underneath the pulley and over top of the flywheel, and you can just spin this on into place. Once that is installed, you can go ahead and reposition the crank arm back onto the center shaft here. And also bring the pedal arm back up and also remount that just to keep it out of the way. At this time, you're going to want to go ahead and retighten this crank arm back into place and any other pivot points you may have loosened to make it easier to pull this whole assembly off. Again, to retighten this belt, we are using a 14mm wrench, and we are tightening this bolt here, which will pull this pulley down to give the belt tension. When you're tensioning this bolt, you only want to be able to put about a 45-degree bend into the belt. That's about how tight you want that. And that's how you replace a drive belt on an Octane or any other elliptical that uses a drive belt system.